Okay, we're at the Long Beach Yacht Club for Dad's memorial, and I just wanted to do a little commemorating. Dad loved it here, and thought it was a beautiful spot to have our ceremony.
He's a good-looking man. Yes, I love those photos.
Yeah.
How many years is it? 62?
Looks like a movie star.
62, I thought it was 62. Really? Only 62. Yeah. I know. I think he doesn't need them now.
What does
That's my mom.
Huh?
what does 225 resemble?
225?
Yeah, February 25th.
225. What does that resemble? What do you mean?
Is that their? Is a photo
Maybe
of
you're
both
in
of
the
them?
front.
225. Is that their wedding anniversary or? his
No,
birthday, or-
no, neither. Where does it say that?
Oh, maybe that was when this was. Diane, is that when it was taken? 225/17.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was the date. We just went to dinner.
Okay. Okay, I thought it was
Commemorating a
this
dinner.
I'd like to start as close to being on time as possible. We appreciate your arriving early and being here, and anybody that comes in, just wave them in. I'm sure there's some seats. Lunch is going to be in an hour, and we have a little bit of a service, a Masonic. We have the rabbi here, and we would like very much to welcome you. Thank you for being our guests. Please come up and share your memories of Ron at the end. We really want to hear this, and I would appreciate you doing that. So I hope all is well, and we will start. And there's no place to put this. Okay, let's just leave it there.
My name is Victor Lindsay. I was Master of Los Cerritos Lodge in 2000, and we are about to conduct a Masonic memorial service on behalf of our dearly departed brother. Brethren and friends, it's been a custom among the fraternity of free and accepted Masons from time immemorial at the request of a departed brother or his family to assemble in the character of Masons and with the solemn formalities of the craft to offer up to his memory before the world a last tribute of our affection. Our brother has reached the end of his earthly toils. The brittle thread which bound him to earth has been severed, and the liberated spirit has winged its flight to the unknown world. The silver cord is loosed, the golden bowl is broken. The pitcher is broken at the fountain, and the wheel is broken at the cistern. Dust has returned to the earth as it was, and the spirit has returned to God who gave it. Ronald D. Guest of Los Cerritos Lodge, number 674, entered into rest March 9, 2018, at the age of 85 years, 5 months, and 21 days. He was Master of Los Cerritos Lodge in 1969. Initiated November 10, 1954, in composite number 639, passed March 16 at the same, and raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason on August 15, 1955. Almighty Father, into thy hands we commend the soul of our beloved brother. The great Creator, having in his infinite wisdom removed our brother from the cares and troubles of this earthly life, and thus severing another link in the fraternal chain by which we are bound together, let us who survive him be yet more strongly cemented by the ties of brotherly love, that during the brief space allotted to us here we may wisely and usefully employ our time, and in the mutual exchange of kind and friendly acts promote the welfare and happiness of each other. We may pay this fraternal tribute to his memory. Let us not forget, my brethren, that we, too, are mortal, and that our spirits, too, must return to God, who spake them into existence. Man that is born of a woman is of few days, and full of trouble. He cometh forth like a flower, and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow, and continueth not. That almighty fiat has gone forth. Dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. And that we are all subject to that decree, the daily observation of our lives furnishes evidence that not to be forgotten. Seeing then, my brethren, that life is so uncertain, and that all material pursuits are in vain, let us no longer postpone that all-important concern of preparing for eternity, but let us embrace the present moment while time and opportunity offered to provide for that great change when all the pomp and pleasure of this fleeting world shall pall upon the senses, and the recollection of a virtuous and well-spent life will yield the only comfort and consolation. Thus we shall not be unprepared to enter into the presence of that one all-wise and powerful judge, to whom the secrets of all hearts are known, and on the great day of reckoning shall be ready to give a good account of our stewardship while on this earth. With becoming reverence, let us supplicate the divine grace with goodness and power, who knows no bounds, and that on the arrival of the moment hour, our faith may remove the clouds of doubt, draw aside the sable of the hidden world beyond, and bid hope sustain and cheer the departing spirit. Let us, with the assistance of our very Reverend Jeff Shimsky, assume an attitude of prayer.
Let us pray. Most glorious God, author of all good and giver of all mercy, pour down thy blessing upon us, we beseech thee, and strengthen our solemn engagements with the ties of sincere affection. Endue us with fortitude and resignation in this hour of sorrow, and grant that this dispensation from thy hands may be sanctified in its results upon the hearts of those who now meet to mourn. May the present instance of mortality draw our attention toward thee, the only refuge in time of need. Enable us to look with eyes of faith toward that realm whose skies are never darkened by sorrow. And after our departure hence in peace and in thy favor, may we be received into thy everlasting kingdom, to enjoy the just reward of a virtuous and well-spent life. Amen.
So mote it be. Our brother has been raised to that blissful lodge which no time can close, but which will remain open during the boundless ages of eternity. In that heavenly sanctuary, the mystic light, unmingled with darkness, will reign unbroken and perpetual. There, under the protection of the all-seeing eye, amid the smiles of immutable love, in that house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, there, my brethren, may Almighty God in his infinite mercy grant that we may meet again and part no more. The lambskin apron is an emblem of innocence and the badge of a mason, more ancient than the golden fleece or the Roman eagle, more honorable than a star or garter, or any distinction that can be conferred upon by king, prince, potentate, or any other person. By it, we are continually reminded of that purity of life and conduct so essentially necessary to gain admission to the celestial lodge above, where the Supreme Grand Master of the universe forever presides. This evergreen, which once marked the temporary resting place of one illustrious in the Masonic history, is an emblem of enduring faith in the immortality of the soul. By it we're reminded that we have an imperishable part within us, which shall survive all earthly existence and which never, never die. Though the loving goodness of our Supreme Grand Master, we may confidently hope that, like this evergreen, our soul will hereafter flourish in eternal spring. we shall ever cherish in our hearts the memory of our departed brother, and, commending his spirit to Almighty God, we trustingly leave him in the hands of that beneficent being who has done all things well, who is glorious in his holiness, wondrous in his power, and boundless in his goodness. And it should always be our endeavor to live so that we may too be found worthy to inherit the kingdom prepared for us from the foundation of the world. We extend to the bereaved family and friends, our departed brother, our sincere sympathy in the hour of sorrow, and we pray that he who tempers the wind to be shorn lamb shall be given his divine comfort and consolation, that they may come to realize that the spirit of our brother is happy in his Father's house, where God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and where there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things have passed away. Soft and safe to thee, my brother, be thy resting place. Bright and glorious be thy rising from it. Fragrant be the acacia sprig that there shall flourish. May the earthly buds of spring unfold their beauties o'er the resting place, and there may be sweetness of the summer's last rose linger longest, though the winds of autumn may destroy the loveliness of their existence, yet the destruction is not final, and in the springtime they shall surely bloom again. Until then, my dear brother, until then, farewell.
Let us pray. The Lord bless and keep us. The Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift upon us the light of his countenance and give us peace. Amen.
So mote it be. This concludes the Masonic service.
Thank you all very much for being here for this opportunity to honor and celebrate the life of Ron Guest. At this moment, we embrace in particular Diane and Marc and Lisa as we remember Ron and indeed celebrate his life. Our tradition reminds us, especially at moments as this, that every moment of life is a gift, full of wonder and mystery and meaning, and that is the message contained within Psalm 121. Let me share with you an English translation of Psalm 121. I lift my eyes up to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. There is a poem I'd like to share with you that expresses this sense of life as full of wonder and amazement, mystery and meaning. And it teaches us that the more one gives of oneself to life, the more one is filled up by the wonder and gifts of life. I am with you where you find wonder and amazement and meaning. I will speak to you out of the rhymes of poets. I will dance with you in the lilt of the violin. I will make your heart leap with the bursting cadence of piano under gifted hand. I will meet you in the swaying boughs of bud-filled trees and caress you with the passionate sweep of storm-filled winds. I will give you strength in your upward tread of everlasting hills. I will suffuse your soul with the flaming radiance of sunrise and bring you peace in the tender rose of sunset. All these made me happy. They are a part of me, and I have become a part of them. The sentiment of hopefulness and fulfillment that's conveyed by this poem emerges from a life lived through the love of family, service to community, and with compassion for those in the embrace of one's life. And such was indeed the life of Ron Guest. And Psalm 90 also is a poem sharing our sense of what it means to live a life of fulfillment. O God, through all generations, you have been our strength and our home. Before the mountains were born or the oceans were brought to life for all eternity, you endure. 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it passes. You return our bodies to the dust. You carry us away. We vanish as suddenly as the grass. In the morning it shoots up and flourishes. In the evening it withers and fades. Our life dissolves like a vision and fades into air like a cloud. The span of our life may be 80 years and 10 or perhaps more. In the end, they pass swiftly, and we fly away. So teach us to number our days that we may get us a heart of wisdom. Fill us in the morning with your wisdom. Shine through us all our lives. Let our hearts grow transparent in the radiance of your love. Show us how precious each day is. May the comfort of Adonai our God be upon us. May the work of our hands be fulfilled. Prosper the work of our hands, O God. We're going to have an opportunity now to experience how Ron Guest lived a life of fulfillment and the many lives that he touched and blessed. I'd like to begin by calling up his son Marc to share some memories with us. Very good.
Either way is okay, but
Diane, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Is there a way that I could stay down here?
Yes.
I'm not as steady as I used to be on my feet. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Let me hold this for you.
Okay, thank you. I need to share with all of you that my heart is filled to the brim. I have so many friends and acquaintances and people that I have known for so many years that go back my life for so many, many years. And some people that I haven't known for a long, long time. And I just want you to know that I am thrilled that you are all here. Thank you very much for coming and sharing my sad times and my happy times. And I am thrilled that you are all here to be with me today. Thank you so much for your support, for your caring, and for your just being who you all are, individually and collectively. I appreciate your being here. And I see the Fiskins back there. Many childhood friends are here, many adult friends are here, many people that I've known for a lot of my life. And I am so thrilled that you are here to share this time with me. And I need you to know that if Ron were here, he would say, all right, and that you are all here, and that we're all together. And I appreciate that so, so much. Thank you. In the old days, I used to be able to climb that. Not that.
His brother. And I didn't know him very well because he died when I was very young. He died at a very young age. And unfortunately, the same problem that he had, my sweet lovely cousin Joyce had the same problem, and she didn't live as long a life as she should have, and was unbelievable the way she handled things. She was like one of my world's greatest heroes, Joyce. When I think about Ron, I have the following thoughts and conclusions. Great parent, great friend, smart as a whip, caring individual, interested in getting as much out of life as possible, loved family, extremely loyal to his sister, extremely loyal to his mother, and deeply in love with Diane, which how could you not be? And those were things that I really appreciated. And whenever I wanted to just feel a little bit better about life, I could get on the phone and talk to him. Because there's nobody that, in my mind, ever had a better attitude about life. I'm convinced that when somebody passes on, that if you relive good memories, they're still alive and with you. I deeply feel that in my soul and body. And the beauty is, it might be selfish, but I still get to have him around with me for as long as I want, and to enjoy all of our memories. And I wish that for the rest of you too, that you'll be able to do the same thing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hammond. This event's far too sprinkled too often throughout our lives. So many parallels in our families. And I was talking to Lisa the other day and remembering Ron in the desert on a horse. And my saddle slipped, and I went under, and he yells, "Don't let go of the reins." And I said, "What?" And I let go of the reins. I don't know, I might have been 8 years old. And he ran after me, and he grabbed my horse, and he stopped that horse. And I came to the ground, and he fixed the saddle, and I'm like, I don't want to get back on, I don't want to get back on. No, you need to get back on. It's too long a walk to the stable. And I got back on, and he led my horse to the stable. And that's just one story. There's so many currently, from the very beginning to maybe in the last year, of communicating with him and him guiding us through insurance policies with my husband and my daughter, and Diane encouraging us to have a birthday party. I remember when Rachel turned 1, and I said, "Oh, it's just 1, it's no big deal." And Diane saying, "No, this is a big deal. You raised this child. She didn't, she made it a year. That's a big deal." And the profound things that Diane and both Ron were so instrumental, and I have such grand memories, and I'm so pleased to be here.
It's wonderful to have you all here.
And I'm so sorry for the distance, but it was a good move for us. And we took our daughter to Oregon and raised her in Oregon, and she's thriving, and that's important. And thank you for the crowded room. It's a memory of his existence and how he really did touch so many people, and thank you.
good afternoon, or good morning. My name is Natalie Swit, and I am a member of Temple Israel and an active member of its caring community. I met Diane and Lisa at a 2005 Women's Weekend, and we hit it off and we had a good time. And Ron did not come into my life until a few years later. I did not know him particularly well, but I want to tell you, as Rabbi said, how I was touched and blessed to have him in my life. As a member of the caring community, I am responsible for helping to arrange, unfortunately, Shiva Minyanim and meals of condolence, and it is an honor to do that. We had a congregant whose mother died several years ago, and unbeknownst to me, his father was Orthodox. So I needed to find 10 men on very short notice to come to this congregant's home and make a minyan. And so fortunately I had my temple directory with me, and the congregant lived in Lakewood, and I'm sometimes geographically challenged, and I opened up my directory and I started looking for everyone who lived in Lakewood. And I called Lee Shoag, and he lived in Bixby Knolls. He came over, and I called Ron Guest, and I said, I don't know you, but I need your assistance. And he happened to be home. Marc happened to be there also. And they came over, and they helped to complete the minyan of 10 men. And our congregant and his family was very happy. And I just was touched and blessed by this opportunity to meet this man and his son and the others. And I would see him occasionally, probably about once a year at Rosh Hashanah, and we would have a hug, and a twinkle would come in his eye. And he always knew that I was very grateful. The congregation and the family of the congregant were very grateful. I don't know very many mensches. I have to assume when others will be speaking that Ron was truly a mensch, and I'm very sad for Diane and Lisa and Marc, but very grateful that he was a part of my life for a short period of time, and thank you.
Anyone else?
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Glenn Gottlieb. I was the Worshipful Master of Los Cerritos Lodge in 1984. I'm a third-generation Mason. My grandfather was the Master of Los Cerritos Lodge, I think it was 1927, is that right, Worshipful? 27. My father was Master of the Lodge in 1963, Norman Gottlieb. Nate Niemer was my grandfather. One of the things it says about Ron Guest is that he never had a bad word to say about my grandfather. Bernie's laughing more than anybody. We recently lost Marc Spicer, and I spoke at his funeral memorial at Temple Israel the other day, and I have some similar things to say about Ron Guest. Ron was enthusiastic about life. He never had a bad word to say about anybody. Whenever he greeted you, you felt like, the sunshine just came out. When I came up in Masonry, I came up sort of as the next generation after my dad. Guys like Bernie Reisner, Tommy Thompson, and Ron Guest were ascendant in the lodge, I guess was a way to put it. And they taught me a tremendous amount about Masonry and about integrity and about having a great attitude about life. When I participated in a degree with Ron, whether it was the 3rd degree or the 19th degree at the Scottish Rite, there was no more enthusiastic participant. He loved Masonry. He loved participating in the degrees, and it was just a joy to be around him all the time. And I often, whenever I think of Ron, he's the type of guy who brings a smile to your face. And he's a loss to all of us and to Masonry in particular.
Nice, Glenn.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Charlotte Guest, and I am married to Jason Guest, who is the son of Marc and the grandson to Ron. And I met Ron 11 years ago in college when I was dating Jason. they were visiting Colorado, and that's where Jason and I were going to school. And so Ron and Diane were the first people that I met from the Guest family, and they embraced me with such warmth and such love, as if I was already a guest, which I was not. We had only been dating for maybe 2 months when this happened, but they were, they were selling it pretty. No, I'm just kidding. But I've had the absolute pleasure to, of course, marry their grandson, and the honor to bring another baby into the Guest family. A year ago, on March 16th, we welcomed our first son, Adam Guest, into this world, and Ron was there to see his grandbaby and hold him and love him. So that's something that both Jason and I hold dear. And as many people have said, Ron was a fixer and really liked to make sure that the people that he cared about had what they needed to be the best that they could be. And I know for that this is how it was for me and Jason, that Ron was always very eager to know how we were doing and where we were struggling, and work with us to find solutions to situations that maybe seemed hard. I wanted to share one story because I feel like it does give this picture of Ron being this very playful and courageous and dedicated person to not just family but also to people improving themselves. I did not learn how to drive until I was 26. And moving out here from Colorado, I scared everyone that I got in the car with. So my husband would not drive with me. My parents were done driving with me. And I was kind of, telling this to Ron. And he said, well, I'll drive with you. Oh, no, I don't want to scare you. That's not fair. No, let's go in the car right now. Okay, so we get in his car. I'm driving along, doing well, I think, and he says, "Yes, you're doing well. Now I want you to take a right here." No, that's the freeway. I've never driven on the freeway before. No, you can do it. You're doing very well. No, we don't even live here. I don't even know anything about driving on the freeways in LA, Long Beach. But we did. We got on the freeway. I drove one whole exit, got off, and felt pretty amazing that I had followed through, and now I would say I'm a pretty good driver, thanks to Ron. But when people ask me, well, who taught you to drive? I tell them, well, Ron Guest taught me how to drive. So I wanted, as everyone has said, is so wonderful that so many people are here to celebrate Ron and his life, and I feel very blessed to be a part of the Guest family and to be carrying on Ron's legacy with my son. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Shauna.
I am Brianna Guest. I was Ron's granddaughter. My father died when I was very young, and I grew up with no official father. But the person that took that role was my grandfather. He stepped up. He was there. He made sure that I was taught and I was loved. When I was very young, as many of you know, he has a chess set in the family room. And I would always play with the small turtles and ducks that sit on that chessboard. I didn't know what that game was. And my grandfather pulled me aside and he started to teach me. I've never beaten him. I never will. He was always better than me. But he sat there patiently every time I would come over and taught me, well, this piece does this and this does that. And I would try to play by my own rules because I was a kid, of course. But my grandfather wanted to make sure I knew the right way, that I was playing the best way that I could, but also playing fairly. And that translated into a lot of life lessons that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else. He made sure that when I had troubles, he could get me through it. He would talk to me, he would teach me, and he would just sit and be there if I needed that. And I will never get over that loss. But it was good to have him.
Dad, we can hear you now better than ever. There are so many things I want to say about memories, about love, about genuine connectedness to another soul here on this swirling ball of energy. But I want to say that when Steve died, Brianna was Steve's youngest. 6 months before he died, I was gifted the opportunity of being at a 12-day workshop with Brew Joy. Brew Joy was an author and a spiritual leader, and he healed himself of deep pancreatic cancer at the age of 27 and lived a long life helping others gain their powers in this world. And at that workshop, I had no idea my brother was going to die, but at that workshop, he said something that really stayed with me. What he said is that when someone you love passes on, the thing you love the most about them can come into you, can be you. And when you hear something about Dad, to Ron Guest today, about his patience, about his love, about his calmness, about his whip-smart brain, about his soul that was so deep, sometimes it was hard to put it into words. I just want you to realize that the aging process is difficult for all of us. Every single one of us struggles with it. And the gift of this, having you all here today, willing to share your memories with us, is that you bring our dad, our husband, not mine, our father, our grandfather, our great-grandfather back to us as he was in the prime of his life. And I want to say one other thing. I communicate with my brother through license plates. Long story, but I know a lot of people have a lot of ways of communicating with those who we have loved and who have left us on the earth plane. And when we would be in the car, Mom and Dad and I would say, "Oh, look, Steve's here and this is what he's saying." And Mom would go, "Oh, I wish." And my dad would go, "Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ain't it, you think that's what it is." Less than 24 hours after he passed, I got the most distinct message from him. And it really, this vision in my head came up that he was sitting at a table with Stephen and his two dads and his mother and sister and all the good friends, Bob Wolf, people who have passed before us. And they were saying, they were playing a game, a board game called License Plates. And they said, "Hey, if you do this one, it'll blow our mind."
Marc, would you like to come forward and share your memories?
If there's nobody else that wishes.
Well, before you go, I'd like to.
Okay. And then Jerry. And okay.
Can everybody hear me from here? I'm not a very good public speaker. But what I am is I'm Marc's business partner. And like father, like son, Marc won't have a business partner without the family basically approving the business partner. So I had the honor of breaking bread over the last year with Ron and Diane, and I have so many good things, good memories to say, but one is I was fortunate enough to Ron's projects. he wanted to move a size of a television from this big to this big. And he asked Marc to assemble the tools and everything. And Diane, you were a really good project manager in that as well, making sure that it was straight. So we had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time together, and I'm honored and blessed to be Marc's business partner, and I'm honored and blessed to know the Guest family and have broken bread with them over the last year. So Diane, thank you, and my respect and gratefulness to Ron.
I'm Jerry Cohn. Diane, we're also blessed to have known Ron. He made me feel so special. His integrity, his honesty, is always there for us. Everybody in this room has been touched by Ron and the wonderful person he was. He taught me a lot. He taught me how to play gin. I thought I knew how before I met Ron, but he taught me that every card was hot and he was tough to beat. Whenever you were with Ron, it's like you were his best friend. He paid 100% attention to you. He cared about you. He cared about your family. And it's heartwarming to see everybody here paying honor to the Guest family.
Thank you, Jerry.
Good morning. Might be afternoon by now?
Good morning still.
Okay, it's still morning. My name is Bill Rothwell, and I have had the good fortune of being the pool guy for the guests at their house. When I first started there, almost 16 years ago, Ron used to come out there every couple of weeks, and he'd just check it and say, how's the pool going? How's this? How's that? And we'd talk a little bit about family, and he was really good about helping me get rid of some negative attitude that I had, not about him or anything like that, but there are certain things that happen in the pool business that cause you to kind of shake your head and wonder why. And he'd always show me, even though he wasn't a pool guy, he could show me a good side to it, and it always made me feel better. We were talking one time about the eucalyptus trees that were over the back fence. They lived, anybody that's not been there, there's a golf course there, Lakewood Country Club. The 14th fairway is right there. I played it many times. And never working through there, and there's a time of the year when all the leaves start to fall, and with eucalyptus trees, it's any time they feel like it. And one time he came out there, and I was kind of, oh geez, you know, eucalyptus leaves all over the place and stuff like this. And he says, well, what's the problem? I said, they're just, you know, they're messy, and they're just kind of hard to clean up because they're flat. And he didn't say much about it. And the next week I came back, and the eucalyptus tree that's right behind the house was trimmed back, way back. None of the other ones on the other sides were trimmed back. And I asked him, I said, did you have anything to do with this? Well, I just asked the superintendent if they could just trim it back for you. That's the kind of guy he is. He was looking to help me out. And I'm going to miss him a lot. I didn't see him. The last time I saw him was about 2 weeks before he passed, and was fortunate enough to be in there and give him a hug, tell him I loved him, and to get back on his feet. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to have notes because I'm not smart enough to do this. I'm Walt Levy, a friend of one of Ron's many friends, and a lot of years have elapsed since I was lucky enough to have Ron and Diane in my life. Ron was so many things in my family's lives. He was a friend, a mentor, a teacher, a confidant, a gin partner, and a travel companion. I couldn't have imagined a life event that went by without including in the inner circle birthdays, anniversaries, all the things we celebrated and shared over time. Ron's generosity to me and my family can only be summed up as unconditional. He was such an inspiration to me and my family, and his memory will be with me forever. Thank you.
My name is Susan Alaya, Diane. I met Diane in the 1980s when both of us decided to make midlife career changes and go to graduate school. And that's when I met Ron, because Ron was extremely supportive of Diane. He even came to class with her occasionally. And later, when we both went to work at Metropolitan State Hospital, he frequently joined us for lunch at IHOP or a Mexican restaurant whose name I've forgotten. But he was always a joy, and whether it was graduate school or us complaining about our patients, he was always encouraging and always had a bright smile on his face, and I miss him. God bless you, Diane.
Thank you.
I don't like speaking in front of people, and the only reason I'm up here is because Ron would make me come here and talk to everyone. So my name is Dana Gordon. I moved to the Lakewood Country Club when I was in second grade, and I'm called the little boy next door. Kind of like the redheaded stepchild, if that's the appropriate thing to say at a speaker like this. But the Guests were my second family, and I was blessed to have two fathers, my father and Ron. And he was everything to me. And I am devastated. And I have to look at Diane and talk. You know how much I love that man. He was at every graduation of mine, at my bar mitzvah, at my wedding, at the births of my children. He didn't teach me how to play gin, he taught me how to play craps and blackjack. And most importantly, what he taught me was to use the house as money. And kind of a metaphor in life, I've done that. I use the house as money. He's taught me to be fiscally sound. He's taught me to be a good person, a good father, a good spouse. And I loved him so much, Diane. He was my hero. And I wish I had funnier stories because that's what Ron would do. What I really admired most about Ron was his ability to speak. He spoke at everything, and I wanted to be him when I grew up, if I ever grow up. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you.
That's pretty impressive. In the 80s, David Walachinsky and David Wallace wrote a book called The Fear, or the Book of Lists. It was very popular at the time, and one of the things that they talked about was that in life, and I think it's particularly appropriate at a funeral, in life, people are generally more afraid of public speaking than they are of death. I mean, it ranks several levels. Nobody's that afraid of dying. They're very afraid of this. So Dana, I understand what you're saying. And when you say that my father would have made you, I know that that's true. It's just true. I have also made a couple of notes for myself, but I'm sorry you're going to have to let me wing some of this. When I was a child, I remember hearing names that rang through my family's life. The Shulmans, the Barrows, the Bisers, the Cohns, the Hillingers, the Levies, the Bermans, the Spellins, the Zollers, the Goldens, the Horwitzes, the Kelters, the Gordons from 2 doors down. And Dana, you were as much of a son to my father as any of us in my family, and he loved you with all of his heart and his soul. That he had been there at so many of the events of your life was because you kept a constancy with him. And he loved you as preciously as he could ever love any of us. I appreciate you, and I love you as my brother. In any case, the names of my childhood, the names of so many of you, they started when I was little. And I look around the room today, and so many of you are still here. And it's even if you're represented by kids or grandkids. And what you have meant to my parents is life and community. And they were passionately involved with all of my mother loves so many of you in this room. And I just want you to know that we truly appreciate you being here to celebrate life with my father, to wish him bon voyage on his journey, and to support our family, that we know that our feeling of loss does not exist for us alone, that there are many of you have cherished my dad is just a wonderful thing to hear and to see and to feel, and that you took your time to make this a part of your day, and something you chose to do is something means the world to us. I have always felt, and still to this day, I see it in so many and what they've said, that my father was a positive influence for many in the community. He was a member of many worthy organizations, and I don't know, he truly loved each of you, and he felt that being a part of community was being there for each other, especially during difficult times. I remember when I was very, very young, my father came to me in the middle of the night and he shook me in my bed and he said, I want to bring you, I have a problem. I need to go out and I want you to come with me. And he wanted to bring me on an insurance man's call to his client when the client was in the midst of a horrible circumstance. The client was known to many of you, his dear friend Teddy Berman. And Gage Pharmacy had had a massive flood. I don't remember rain or a pipe broke. I don't remember the cause. But I just remember that it was a pretty terrific flood that devastated the shop, and that Teddy was standing there with his hands over his eyes and in tears, and I watched my father put his arm around him and say, "Teddy, it's going to be all right. This is what we bought the insurance for. Your shop will be made right, your goods will be replaced, and you will survive." And he did. And for many years thereafter, they graced each other's life. Dad may have been one of the many pillars of this community. And he spent many years volunteering time, energy, and a bit of management heart to many organizations. He was a member of the board for both memorial and community hospitals, a past president of the Jewish Family and Children's Service, and he was honored in 2005 with the Muriel Baldwin Service Award. Mom and Dad had 3 children, me, my sister Lisa, and my brother Stephen, who passed in 1993. Right. He was grandfather to 4, my sons, Jason and Christopher, and Stephen's children, Courtney and Brianna. And he became a great-grandfather, just like my daughter-in-law said, a year ago, with the birth of my grandson, Adam Guest. When Stephen died unexpectedly, Mom and Dad started the Guest family tree over at the Jewish Community Center, the Tree of Life, which supports a number of institutions. He was proud of that, and I think the last few years when they relocated the tree, instead of in the courtyard at the back, at the front of the temple, or at the front of the JCC, he was touched that it was chosen as a piece that was worthy. Dad graduated from UCLA, I guess many of you know better than I, in 1954, but not before meeting and falling in love with my mother, Diane. In 1956, they were married, and I suppose I was the first fruit of their momentous union. Married for 62 years, my father was still in love with my mother until the day that he died, and he taught me that patience and give and take, nature of relationship, and also that if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Dad, I will always remember that although you didn't always have the tools to communicate all of your feelings, keep in mind he was a man of the 50s, and his constancy of character and the depth of soul in his heart could be measured in different ways. Even in the last year of Dad's life, he still reached out for Mom's hand pretty much every day at breakfast and wanted to hold her and look into her eyes and let her know how deeply he felt for you. He may not have had the tools to use the words, but he adored you, and he made me, and you made me, into the type of man that I am. And it's only as a result of you teaching me how to communicate. It's funny. When I was a kid, I was in the corner. I was playing with blocks, just having fun. And it was like the voice of God spoke up and said, "Marc, what are you doing?" And I realized, or what are you feeling? Ooh, scarier. And I realized that the voice wasn't God's voice, but it was my mother's voice. And she was across the room, and I'm just playing with blocks here. And I said, "Mom, I'm just playing with blocks." And my mother said to me, she said, "No, I saw a feeling go over your face. I want to know what you were feeling." So as a very young boy, I realized, and this is really a shock for many of us men in the room, that we are supposed to have emotions, that we are supposed to know what they are, and that we're supposed to be able to communicate them. The only way that I knew is because my mother taught me that. And if Dad couldn't always tell you how much he loves you, believe me when I tell you, his heart was full with you, and he had no idea how to communicate it in a way that would give you that peace and that knowledge. It just wasn't in his cards with all of his talents. I don't think he could tell you, I don't think he could take the risk of telling you how truly precious you have been every day of his life. Dad had been fighting prostate cancer for 10 years. And a year and a half ago, they told us that it had metastasized to his spine and that he had less than 6 months to live. And Dad had seen so many people in our community pass as a result of chemotherapy and radiation that he just went, "My God, the cure is worse than the disease. It's not worth it. I'm ready to go now. If that's what it takes, I'm ready." And we looked into it and we found a medication in South America. And I'm probably the most thankful thing in my life is to be able to know that I brought something here and that we were able to cure his cancer. My father was not eaten alive like so many with that debilitating disease. And I want to share with you that a week ago Friday, when he passed, it was because he was no longer able to do here the things that he wanted to do. He was not able to move as well. He went into the hospital 3 weeks, and after that, atrophy, whatever it is, he really lost the ability to move. And what I would say to you is when he passed in his bed with his wife of 62 years, his daughter and his son by his side. He was content that he was full with life and of life. And the fact of the matter is, he was wanting to see what lay beyond the veil of this lifetime more than he was wishing to stay with each of us in such a state of diminished capacity. My father is free, and I pray that we will always remember the people who touch us, my father being one of them that touched me the most in my life. Thank you all for coming and sharing this day with us. We appreciate each and every one of you, and your lives truly matter in ours.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much, Marc. Ron was a young boy when his father died at the age of 37. That experience became, I think, a haunting refrain in Ron's life. He worried that he too might have only a short life. Well, Ron exceeded his father's lifespan by almost half a century. More importantly, he filled those years by creating a loving family, helping to build a highly successful business, and contributing immensely to the strengthening of his community. He did all of this with integrity, generosity, and compassion. His life was one of fulfillment both for himself, his family, and his community. Born in Los Angeles, Ron went to UCLA, where he majored in economics and pursued his interest in business administration. His father had founded in 1929 Interstate Restaurant Supply, a food service and manufacturing company. Over time, it evolved into a multi-million-dollar family-run business. But Ron decided he didn't want to jump into the middle of such an enterprise. He had it in mind to build something through his own application. And while at UCLA, one spring, Ron went on a spring break trip with some fraternity brothers to Las Vegas. And also vacationing in Las Vegas during that same spring break was a group of sorority sisters also from UCLA, including one, Diane Eisman. They met and dated, and upon his graduation from UCLA, Ron said to Diane during one of those dates, "When we're married," at which point Diane said, "Wait, could you please back up a bit and repeat that last part?" It was the first time he had mentioned it, and she wanted to be clear about his intentions. It wouldn't be the last time that Diane's gentle guidance assisted the two of them onto a path of fulfillment and happiness. Their wedding in 1956 was one of the first officiated over by Temple Israel's Rabbi Wally Kelter. And shortly after getting married, Ron joined Diane's father, Max Eisman, in his insurance company business. And eventually they built it into Allied Insurance Associates. Ron worked there for nearly 30 years, eventually selling the business and retiring in 1984. Upon retirement, Ron continued with his business initiatives as a consultant. He played tennis and traveled with Diane to virtually every corner of the globe. But his retirement years were also filled with volunteer service to the community. He served on the boards of the Jewish Community Center, Temple Israel, and the Jewish Federation, and perhaps his deepest dedication of service was to the Jewish Family and Children's Service. He served as its treasurer for 8 years and then was elected president of the board. Ron's business skills helped guide JFCS through some important years in its growth, and following his term as president, he assumed the responsibility of chairing the newly formed Operations Committee to oversee the business aspects of the agency. Ron's devotion to family, his generosity towards friends, and his service to community form the very essence of a fulfilling, rewarding, and rich life, a blessing to all who knew him. In his very touching comments, Marc referred to a bon voyage for his father, and in Hebrew the expression is Nesiya Tova, good journeys. And so that indeed is the message of our prayer, El Malei Rachamim, God full of mercy, as we send Ron off onto the next experience. I invite you please to rise as you're able for this concluding prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shohem Amramihim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashkina, im kedoshin otorin, kazaharakim azhirin, et nishmat ran geshal alelamo, ba'aharachamim, yastereter preseter kenev leolamim, Vayitzror bitzror chachayim et nishmato anahu nechalato v'yanuef b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Ron Guest, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Please be seated. On behalf of the whole family, it's my honor to say thank you so much for gathering together in the spirit of fellowship. I know that the family looks forward to your continuing to stay together, to share the nourishment of both food and fellowship together. And as it was a blessing for all of you to be here with Ron's family, God bless each and every one of you along your way. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
We miss you, Dad. This is a nice place to lay you to rest. I've always loved this spot. Lido Marine Island, Newport Beach. It's a place worth remembering. Right, white light. I guess we gotta go this way. Okay. We're coming up on the Ronald D. Guest Memorial Cruise and the letting loose of your ashes. And we're doing it on the white light. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir.
Good. I got all the way out there and I forgot the keys to the car in my jacket because it was hot. So I took off my jacket. It's close, fortunately. All right, let me stop. You get to watch him take his last swim, and you may be undefeatable now.
I can hear him saying Uberettes, which we don't know what that meant, but he would say it a lot.
Uberettes?
Ets. What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Uber is after eats, I think. It's a little German, it's a little Yiddish. I think it's Yiddish. I'll check it.
Brother Levy, would you help me lift our brother? Yeah,
Do you want to do that, or you want Lisa and I to do it? How do you do it?
No, you two are going to do it. We're going to give it to you guys.
That's fine.
Why don't you guys do it?
I think so.
I'm not as steady as I used to be.
Yes, sir. Each person.
I just don't want Mark to fall.
Sir.
Do you do it with a pole, or you do it? How do you do it?
You'll see.
Okay.
They're going to help.
Okay, good.
Ron is my brother, my confidant, my friend, my gin partner. We worked together, we played together, we laughed together.
Dad, I'm really glad you got to have the life you really wanted.
Okay. Lisa and Marc are going to help you.
Yes, sir. Before we do that, I'd like to read this passage.
Okay.
It
entitled When I Must Leave You. When I must leave you for a little while, please do not grieve and shed wild tears, and hug your sorrow to you through the years. But start out bravely with a smile, and for my sake and in my name, live on and do all things the same. Feed not your loneliness on empty days, but fill each waking hour in useful ways. Reach out your hand in comfort and in cheer, and I, in turn, will comfort you and hold you near.
Stay down.
You'd like to make it this way now?
Okay.
Everybody will please throw their flowers in.
Goodbye, Don.
A little bit. Go ahead if you have a better one. Hey, Dad, everybody's assembled. Everybody came out for your funeral.
Those are sea lions.
It's a beautiful event. I think we're gonna go see your buddies, Dad. They came out to see you. No, they can get nasty, very nasty. These things can bark at you pretty awesome.
Their teeth are like razor blades.
Really? Not far from Fashion Island, Dad. We'll go to DNR or R&D's and think of you. I'm a seaman, baby. I'm used to being on the water. I love it out here. I still love you. I still. After all of these edits.
Okay,
I love
tell
you.
her how you feel about her.
How I feel about you.
I know how you feel like I feel about you. I'm thankful. Thankful that we've been together in this lifetime and that we've shared all that we've shared. Very
Me too. And I'm glad things were healed with you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm glad he knew.
Yeah, me too.
My heart is clear with you guys.